I was listening to the story about, it was a story of a family in Washington, and the little boy called the Bigfoot the cowboy man. And he had, apparently it had made an effort to steal this kid. And it hit me. My children were in that playpen behind me with nothing but a mosquito net over them. It could have crept up behind me and taken both of my children, and I wouldn't have known.
Father just got like a Mustang or something from Wyoming, okay? He had it out in the corral because he couldn't put it in the barn in the stalls with the other horses. It would kick and made all the other horses nervous. Had a Seminole Indian working the horse trying to break it every day. So they had it out in the corral. This skunk ape snuck up behind this horse and grabbed it on its hindquarters. This particular horse kicks out, jumps over the corral, runs into the pasture, to get away. At this point, the rancher's out there just blasted away with the dirty. Skunk ape runs into the swamp.
I went up there one day after that, or 2 days after that. I went up there and sat in the silence up there, and I'm telling you, man, it was free. It was crazy. There was a crazy vibe up there still. I did what I could to kind of get things under control, but I told her, I said, you need to get off this property. I feel like no matter how strong you are, it's almost like standing in the ocean. You can't stand still without moving your feet. You're going to get knocked over eventually, no matter how strong, whatever. You can't withstand a barrage of weird spiritual energy.
What is up, everybody? I am so excited to be here. And yeah, I'm alone. My illustrious host, Wayne Tetherow, overbooked himself. So if you're new here, there's usually two of us. But I'm glad to have you nonetheless. I have a killer show for you. I have worked so hard on this gentleman's case, and I am really excited to bring you the information that I found. I will preface this show and tell you that anytime I deal with the paranormal, my StreamYard will freeze and it will kick me out. Usually I have Wayne here, so that's no big deal. But since it's just me, I am asking for your patience ahead of time. And it only takes a few minutes and I come right back and we can finish the show. But if you are paranormal minded, you know how that works. So let's pay the bills. I have a plethora of information. I have a wonderful guest coming. Let's get this out of the way. If you guys have not subscribed to our show, please hit that subscribe button. We would greatly appreciate it. We are moving in the right directions with our subscribers, but we could always use some more to add to our community. If you would like to be on with Wayne and myself, you can catch us, Wayne at paranormalworldproductions.com, or myself, Tiffany at paranormalworldproductions.com. We are currently filled up for March, all of February and March, and we're booking for April. So the sooner you can reach out to us, the better we can get you on. While we are on the paranormalworldproductions.com train, head over there. We have 7 shows under that umbrella. We have added new shows, and you can get you some merch. We would love to see pictures of you guys in our merch. With questions, since it is me, myself, and I, if you could put them in all capital letters, I would greatly appreciate it. And we have an area of our screen that we can highlight them and put them over there, and then I can grab them towards the end of the show. And if you have questions for our guest, I can run them by him at that time. So this gentleman reached out to me 8 days ago today, and I have delved headfirst into this. And if you know me on a personal level, you know 100% that this is scary. This is terrifying. I usually stray away from this, but when he reached out to me, I don't know, I became almost obsessed, and I was like, okay, well, I want to find out. I want to dig. I want to see everything that's there. So I also have because we have extended this show, usually it's just an hour, but there is a whole lot to unpack here. and an hour wouldn't cover it all. So we are extending the show at least to an hour and a half, but it may go over even that a little bit. You see, I'm already lagging. Love the paranormal. So he sent me his bio, and I'm just going to read it as it is because it doesn't need to have anything added to or taken away. Keith Linder is a professional in the IT field, having worked at some of the largest tech companies in the world: Dell, Microsoft, Philips Healthcare, and Verizon. His hobbies include fishing and sports, football and basketball, movies, and sci-fi. In 2012, Keith Linder and his girlfriend, Tina, relocated to a house in Bothell, Washington, near Seattle. Their experiences in that house introduced them to the paranormal community and forever changed their lives. Regardless of whether you believe in the paranormal or not, the evidence and stories presented here may make you reconsider your beliefs. One expert in the field, Rob Tilley of the Australian Institute of Parapsychology Research, has praised the thorough and well-researched nature of this case, ranking it alongside other famous poltergeist cases such as the Enfield poltergeist, South Shields poltergeist, Bridgeport, Connecticut case, and the Matthew Manning case. The Bothell Hell House is a significant contribution to the poltergeist research. And oh my God, oh my God. All right, so the first 25 minutes of the show, I have chosen, and I asked his permission to show this video. It's 25 minutes, but it's 4 years within 25 minutes, give or take a little bit. So I wanted to bring that to you guys because I don't want you guys to think this is just another ghost story. You know, this is not Friendly the Casper or Casper the Friendly Ghost. It's just not. I did research today on the internet, and for those of you who are new or who are listening to this afterwards on the replay, poltergeist is considered to be a noisy ghost. They are absolutely noisy. They will bang. They will throw things. You don't see that in a normal haunting at all. So the activities known are violent actions. You will see that. Setting fires. You will see that. These events are sporadic and often repetitive. You will see that. So, but I don't want to wait anymore. I don't want to wait anymore. So let's bring Mr. Keith Linder out and we will start the rest of the show. Hello, Keith.
Hello, hi there.
I'm so glad that you made time to come on, and thank you for reaching out to me.
Thanks for answering, responding, and having me on your show.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. If you remember when you sent me this video, I had watched the first few minutes of it. And I messaged you back and was like, this is a whole house of no. No, thank you. I would have noped on out of there. No. No. So let's just first, I'll commend you for staying as long as you did. But without further ado, I want to take advantage of every second that we have. So let's get this going. And people in the chat room, hello. I'm going to try so hard to keep up with you. And I will scroll through and see if you have any questions and put them aside. But let's get on with this 25-minute video.
The Bothell House is the site of an alleged haunting in Bothell, Washington. Between 2012 and 2016, Keith Linder and his girlfriend at the time experienced a wide range of anomalous activity in the house that became increasingly frequent and extremely hostile. The house has now been thoroughly researched by a variety of investigators who have together documented hundreds of sounds, light anomalies, voice recordings, and other far more. One day, Keith felt something jump onto.
Don't you love ghost glitches?
and for the lines it blurs between different types of hauntings, poltergeists, and even apparitions. After obtaining a management position at a healthcare technology company, Keith Linder asked his then-girlfriend of 2 years, Tina Davis, to move in with him on May 1st, 2012. The couple had found a rental house on Craigslist in the suburbs of Seattle, a relatively new home constructed in 2005. Keith and Tina claimed that the anomalous activity began the day they signed the leasing papers. They were sitting on the living room floor talking when suddenly they heard what sounded like a child's cough. 2 weeks after moving in, Keith noticed that his extra car keys were missing, and cups, cutlery, and jewelry started going missing shortly after. Around the same time, foreign items began to appear around the house, such as other people's mail and children's toys. They also heard thumps and tapping sounds from behind the walls of the house, and had some lights flicker. Neither of them considered that the house was haunted, until one night when they were watching a film. 30 minutes into the movie, a plant by the entertainment stand levitated 6 inches off the ground, rotated 360 degrees in the air, then fell over on its side. In the next few weeks, Keith and Tina both heard footsteps coming from areas of the house that they weren't occupying, and often heard someone running away upstairs as they came in through the front door. The bangs behind the walls got much louder, and Keith observed that they often preceded things being thrown around the house, usually potted plants. The ceiling fan in their bedroom would also start to squeak before something occurred. Doors slammed, objects flew across the room, or the television changed channels, or powered on or off. The activity continued even after Keith had a security system installed. In the summer of 2012, Keith was sitting in his upstairs office when the light was switched off in the room, so he rolled his chair back to look out in the hallway. In the doorway was a completely gray lady in a dress or robe with shoulder-length hair. She was small in stature, petite and frail. Keith saw the woman turn sideways as he looked at her. Then she appeared to try to pass through the laundry room door, but couldn't. She then darted off down the hallway. Keith chased her down the hall, but didn't find anyone there. In the early summer 2012, the bedroom door slammed when Keith and Tina were in the room, and the next morning, they found all of their kitchen cupboards and closet doors open. Around this time, Keith began setting up audio and visual recording equipment and filmed some lighting anomalies. He uploaded these videos to a new YouTube channel where he soon shared hundreds more. One night, Keith smudged the house. While smudging the upstairs hallway, he witnessed the front door of the house open and slam shut on its own. Later that same night, Keith laid out a Bible on the lampstand in the living room with the pages open to Psalms 91. When he woke up the next day, the Bible was gone. The activity tapered off in the fall of 2012 and nearly stopped altogether by January 2013, although Keith maintained that the feeling of being watched never subsided. One notable exception was when Keith saw the shadow of a woman in profile walk across the living room wall and behind the entertainment stand. Also, in the summer of 2013, Keith was selected by Microsoft to be a beta tester for the Xbox 360 game console's Kinect system prototype. While monitoring Keith's gaming behavior through a video camera, Microsoft engineers picked up slow-moving black blobs that neither they nor developers at headquarters could explain. On January 2nd, 2014, Keith fell down the stairs, resulting in a torn patellar tendon in his leg. While recovering from his injury, the anomalous activity returned. One day, Keith felt something jump onto the bed with him that felt like a cat. As the indentations in the mattress moved towards him, he rolled over to look at what it was, but there was nothing there. Keith then began hearing more rhythmic tapping sounds, bangs, and footsteps around the house. and noticed that there seemed to be a heightened energy before an incident that made the walls snap and pop, as if they were being microwaved, as Keith put it. He set up more video equipment after this, and soon noticed that phenomena that occurred quite regularly would not occur when being filmed, although he captured many noises. On March 30th, the couple's bedroom door was ripped off its hinges with a violent crashing sound, and a ceiling light exploded in the hallway. Keith immediately contacted dozens of paranormal investigation teams, but No Bull Paranormal was the only one to respond that day. Jennifer, their lead investigator, immediately noticed a low humming sound in the house, like the muted buzz one hears standing by a beehive. Everyone's cell phones and the team's AV equipment died immediately after entering. After recharging, they captured a white mist on an infrared camera that wasn't visible to the naked eye. Jennifer then did a half-hour sage cleanse in which the sage ignited by itself. The humming sound ceased after this, and the team left. That night, Keith and Tina woke to the fire alarm going off, and saw a glow coming from under the remounted bedroom door. Sitting on the other side of the door was the open Bible that had gone missing nearly 2 years prior, with its pages on fire, and a small wooden cross inside that he'd recently acquired. This was the first of 3 Bibles to self-immolate. On April 4th, just before the most active phase in the haunting, Keith and Tina had their bedroom TV turn on to a music channel blasting Dark Horse by Katy Perry. Each time that the TV came on, the song was in the second half of the chorus, where Perry sings, "Are you ready for a perfect storm? 'Cause once you're mine, there's no going back." The last time the TV did this, it was completely unplugged from the wall, and it was long after that song would have ended if it were really being broadcast. The activity escalated in the spring, straining Keith and Tina's relationship. Pottery and furniture were thrown, doors were slammed, and more light fixtures exploded. Several times the couple came home to rooms that looked like they'd been ransacked. Foreign items began appearing around the house again, including a lot of female jewelry, leading Tina to accuse Keith of infidelity. At the end of May, Keith was in the home alone drying off after a shower when the smoke alarm sounded. He bolted out to the hallway landing where he sensed an invisible force run past him that gave off an energy that he described as pure evil. Shortly after, the front door opened wide and slammed shut. Smoke was pouring into the hallway, and Keith found a poster in his office on fire. The Bothell Fire Department responded, but could not determine the cause. That summer, Keith began seeing dark silhouette-like figures with limbs and red eyes. One night in his office, he noticed movement in the corner of his eye, and heard what sounded like a pencil being snapped in half. As soon as he turned to look, he saw a small shadow figure walk from the left side of his doorway to the right, disappearing as soon as it reached the threshold of the guest bathroom. Soon after, he began seeing these figures 3 at a time, typically in his peripheral vision. Beginning on July 1st, writing began to appear on the walls of the office, first in sage ash, then in a thick black substance. The first time this latter substance appeared was on Halloween night. Keith found the room in disarray, and the numbers 666 were written on the wall. Later, Keith found upside-down crosses, Native American symbols of a dead man, and the words Die KL. Once, the couple even found 3-legged paw prints on the office ceiling that seemed to taper off towards the window. Keith brought in a sample of the writing from the Halloween attack to a materials analysis lab at his work, and a coworker used an XRF analyzer gun on it. They found that it was 84 to 94% tricalcium phosphate, with phosphorus, calcium carbonate, one of the main products of bone combustion, and other carbon material. Keith photographed the writing at 1,000 times magnification and determined that there was also some yellow oil and a blue substance splattered around the black char. By the fall of 2014, Keith was being poked and prodded in his bed at night and was frequently haunted by the shadow figures. In October, 3 candles were thrown at a bookshelf in his office. Minutes later, he started hearing a sound like someone rustling dead leaves. The sound grew closer until a lady emerged from the left side of the doorway that was entirely white in color, just as the earlier woman was all gray. The lady was carrying something in her hands that looked to be a laundry basket, and she walked past the open door and seemed to continue into the guest bedroom to the right. But when Keith jumped up to follow her in, he found no one inside. Also that fall, Keith accidentally dropped his piggy bank while trying to put more dimes inside, sending coins scattered everywhere. A few days later, he began finding single dimes around the house, seemingly placed where he would find them. One day, he decided to read the date on one of the dimes he found, and realized that it was minted on the year of his birth, 1969. A few minutes later, he found another dime in the same place, also dated 1969. When he dared the force behind the dimes to make one appear right now, about 30 dimes dropped from above his head, all at the same time. In November 2014, Keith was gifted a prayer card and an indigenous protection necklace. On Christmas Day, both items reappeared nailed to a doorframe with the words Die KL written in black bone char on the card. The same phrase appeared in his car as well. 2 computer monitors caught fire, and smoldering burn marks began appearing on Keith's clothing while he was wearing them. In January 2015, Keith saw the Grey Lady for a second time. He was sitting with his back to the sliding door in the kitchen when he saw a face and hands poke out from behind the wall by the stairway. The woman looked disheveled, and her eyes were bulging out of her head. She pulled back behind the wall, and Keith heard footsteps run up the stairs, down the hall, and into the guest bathroom over top of him. He later determined that in order for the Grey Lady to have appeared where she did on the stairs, her head would have had to have been 12 feet off the step below her. After a friend contacted the Seattle Catholic Church in April 2014, Keith and Tina made repeated calls for a priest, only to be directed back and forth between the Bothell and Seattle Church. Soon after the poster fire, Keith and Tina managed to speak with Father Northrup of the Bothell Church. 2 weeks later, he visited the house to conduct a cleansing, and did several other rituals there in the next few months. Each time, the activity would cease for a few days, then come back worse. In early fall of 2014, Keith was able to connect with a family that rented the Bothell home in 2008 and 9. The mother, Rhonda Lee Jimenez, admitted that her family had all experienced similar activity, and that she began struggling with depression and alcoholism shortly after they moved in. She developed suicidal thoughts in this house and made 3 attempts on her life. Once, she was even raped by a home intruder. Keith obtained a police report from 2009 in which an officer describes arriving at the home to hear Rhonda screaming from inside the garage. "Why are you doing this to me? I just want to go home. Stop it." She came bursting out of the garage holding a screwdriver, looking completely disheveled and covered in mud, forcing the officer to strike the weapon from her hand after she refused to drop it. Rhonda committed suicide on August 15, 2016. Elisa Jaffe, a reporter from Seattle's KOMO News, visited the Bothell house on October 30, 2014, then contacted Dave Schrader, chief researcher at the Travel Channel show Ghost Adventures. Keith and Tina were put in a hotel while the Ghost Adventures team conducted their investigation, although it's known that the probability of experiencing poltergeist activity is higher when the house's occupants are present. The investigation was a mere 5 hours, and the Travel Channel aired the episode the following February. Keith claimed that the way that the episode was edited makes it appear that he and Tina were exaggerating or hoaxing it all, even though hoaxing was never uncovered. He believes that the Ghost Adventures team portrayed himself and Tina in a negative light to save face from their fruitless investigation. Still, the show's team revisited the case for an episode in May 2020 and doubled down on their original assessment. Keith and Tina broke up in 2015, just a few months after Demons in Seattle aired. Keith claimed that two factors in their breakup were the way that Tina was portrayed on the show, and the conjecture from paranormal teams and church officials that a demonic presence was feeding off of her negative energy. Keith felt determined to stay, lest that be the final word on the haunting. In the spring of 2015, a paranormal team led by Nicole Novell reached out to Keith and had CCTV cameras installed in the house, allowing for constant remote surveillance. Nikki and her team captured a variety of activity, including an image in the bedroom that Keith insisted was the Grey Lady, which he had then come to believe was actually the form of Rhonda. Novell then flew out to Seattle with a colleague in late January 2016 and stayed in the house for 3.5 weeks. The pair experienced a range of phenomena, including what sounded like a heartbeat coming from Keith's bed. In the fall of 2015, Keith reached out to the scientific establishment of parapsychology, led by British parapsychologist Steve Mara. After putting Keith through 4 months of evaluations, Mara and his chief assistant Don Phillips visited Bothell, Washington in January 2016 and stayed for 6 days. They too heard footsteps and voices and had equipment fail or disappear and relocate, a phenomenon known as asportation. Keith asked Mara's team to return to Bothell after the activity in the house showed signs of increasing. Nick Kyle, then president of the Scottish Society for Psychical Research, joined the team for an additional 7 days, making 13 days total for Mara and Phillips. Mara and his team recorded a total of 523 unexplained vocalizations, the majority of which were part of conversations between different voices or with the researchers.
Okay guys, can you please confirm for me the Bothell case we've just done, that there is nothing negative and nothing there to harm or the intent of harming Keith Linder now? Thank you.
But here's
Keith made several unsuccessful attempts at exorcising the house along the way, then moved out entirely on May 8, 2016. Before leaving, he self-published the Bothell Hell House, which documents all the occurrences up to that point. He republished the same book with added evidence in 2018, The Bothell House 2.0. Mara published his own book on the Seattle Demon with author Jenny Ashford in 2016. The Bothell House was sold within 3 months of Keith moving out, and there have been no reports of new activity. However, Keith is occasionally haunted in his current home, also in Seattle, and the 2 other homes he's had since 2016. However, since then, he's also had night terrors and succubus visits. He's been poked and prodded in his bed, and felt pulsations coming from within the mattress and pillow. Keith documented some of these occurrences, and shared his interpretation of the phenomena in 2019's Attachments, Poltergeist of Washington State. Rob Tilley of the Australian Institute of Parapsychology Research claimed that the Bothell House is right up there with the most frightening of poltergeist cases, a major work, a turning point in poltergeist research. Kirsten A. Thorne, founder of the International Society for Paranormal Research, remarked on the sheer range of activity. If ever there was a potpourri of paranormal phenomena, this is it, and that is the hallmark of the demonic. The deliberate creation of confusion, the delight in creating chaos, the impossibility of stitching together a story that explains why all this is happening. The case involved elements of poltergeist activity, intelligent hauntings, residual hauntings, crisis apparitions, and living apparitions, for example. The convergence of these phenomena in the same house in Bothell suggests that at some level, they may all be related. As Mara explained, most poltergeist cases involve children or adolescents in the home, usually female, as well as family trauma or extremely stressful circumstances. None of that was present in Keith's case. Also of interest is the age of the home. As Keith discovered, it is something of a dogma amongst paranormal investigators that only old houses can be haunted. Keith said that most of the teams that he called brushed him off when he mentioned the recent build. As in many cases of hauntings and poltergeists, the activity did not seem to be exclusively attached either to the location or to the people in it. While both Keith and the previous tenant experienced many of the same phenomena, Linder also experienced some of the same activity in 3 different houses since, and friends of his that engaged with the phenomenon have experienced activity elsewhere. Keith is convinced that the entire Bothell neighborhood is haunted by some negative energy that was established when the local indigenous peoples were killed off by war and disease, or forced onto reservations. Keith believes that malevolent spirits descended on this area, feeding off the negative energy. He has stated that by engaging with and even challenging these spirits, and especially by trying to capture them on video, he caused them to grow stronger and to latch themselves to him. Keith also believes that the spirits personalized their attacks and tended to turn his own words, deeds, and beliefs against him. He believes that this is what was meant when he heard a voice say, "I am a mirror." For example, after he laid out crosses and Bibles, the phenomenon burned them and wrote what Keith described as the cliché 666 on the wall and started inverting crosses. Keith also believes that the phenomenon turned himself and Tina against each other and against the entire outside world in order to weaken them and feed off their negative energy. For a time at least, the Bothell house in Washington state was home to one of the most active and malevolent hauntings ever to be thoroughly investigated. The case contains a particularly striking range of haunting, poltergeist, and apparitional phenomena, while also standing apart as an anomaly on its own. Tina Davis no longer discusses her involvement in the public eye, but Keith Linder remains an active proponent of the case. He maintains that he is only trying to spread awareness of hauntings and poltergeists, and to share his evidence and experiences with the scientific community. This commitment has put him through a living nightmare, and may be the reason he is still haunted today.
One element about this ordeal that can never be overlooked, that I hope is never overlooked, is the demonic element. A life was lost. Rhonda Jimenez, may she rest in peace. Her marriage was disrupted and ended in the Bothell home. My relationship with Tina, a woman that I was madly in love with, ended in the Bothell home. The experience from the paranormal community to Tina and myself left a negative impact so much to where today, even today, Tina refuses to talk about the case publicly. That's how much it impacted her, the negative treatment received. But make no mistake, this ordeal was a pure and living hell. And there are elements right now today that I experienced, that I'm still experiencing, that are pure and a living hell. Thank you.
You'll probably see that my lagging will go away as well. It just doesn't like it when I share things. So first off, holy hell, Batman. What? What was that? So you and Tina, this house was built in 2005. You and Tina moved in 2012. You hear a child cough upstairs. So the research that a lot of us in the paranormal field know is a lot of the demonic entities will put themselves off as children at the beginning. And that'll catch you off guard because we as humans are more vulnerable and susceptible, and we want to nurture children. Do you feel that's what happened as well?
Yeah, and that's a good analysis because that's exactly sort of what happened in the beginning. It disarmed us. It took that level of concern and buried it because when we heard the kid cough, obviously we shrugged it off. But fast forward a few weeks later, when we saw the plant levitate um, in the living room, we went back to the kid cough and we even said out loud, "I think we have a kid ghost." And when we thought we had a kid ghost, there was a little smirk between me and Tina. Oh, that's okay. So what do you do with a kid ghost? And the internet said, well, you treat it gingerly, you talk nicely to it, you ask it to kindly leave, but you don't, yell or get mad or anything like that. But you're right. The whole, I guess, from their end was to get us into believing, the kid cough. This is not going to hurt you, and Tina, not yet, until we get stronger. And it did get stronger, take up a nest hold, if you will. But yeah, it had us believing one thing when the reality, as you saw, was another.
Yeah, it's deep. It's deep. One thing I know that we're going to have questions about, and it's the same thing that I had questions about when I got to that portion of the video, is the writing. I personally had never heard of anything being written on the walls. So I had done digging and was like, how do ghosts write on the wall? Blah, blah, blah. Ghosts don't write on the wall. Okay. Demonic entities write on walls. So that sent me down this other road of, the materials that was found when you had it analyzed. In comparison, I found ectoplasm. Is that something that was brought up to you as being a source?
Ectoplasm, it was asked of us by many researchers. Keeping my eye, me and Tina, we're new to the paranormal. We're being baptized in fire with the paranormal as we speak, or then. So these words were foreign to me upon hearing them for the first time. But upon description and looking at it now, there was never any ectoplasm found in the home. There are reports of ectoplasm in other poltergeist-related cases, and the jury is still out as to what's that all about. And in the poltergeist field or cases, maybe 10 to 15% of poltergeist cases do involve what you call wall writing, where over time it's not usually abrupt. It usually happens through the duration of the activity. The entity will, for some reason or another, develop the ability or wants to write on walls. Usually the message being left is very cryptic, as you saw with ours. Very demonic in the sense that you saw the 666 and the 3 paw prints and things of that nature, upside down cross. And then often an unknown substance, like you saw with some of the black oil there. Some poltergeists even take it a step further and develop the ability to speak directly to the house occupants. Thank God ours didn't, but there are cases of that. But yeah, the wall writing definitely was another facet of this case, or what makes this case interesting, particularly the black oil and the nature of the black oil. Anybody can go to Google and research bone black. Bone black, by any imagination, is not a material that you or I could go readily buy in a store. We can't go to Home Depot and say, give me a gallon of your bone black. It's not an easy to find substance. Those that do exist come in small supply, and that's just to have it in a container, let alone apply it to a wall. Some of the markers, if you look closer at the wall, the writings go behind large furniture, computer desk, computer monitor, ceiling. There are many paint experts that ventured into the house and will tell you there's no way they could have done that in a short amount of time. It would have taken them numerous days, hours, just to even attempt something like that with paint, let alone bone black. So there's the application method itself that lends itself to, how does a person do that? Well, number one, a person didn't do that. So yeah, it was just another facet of the case. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was looking at, I have many pages of notes that I'm trying to keep together, but everything that was found within the analyzing of that, it's not in paint. And a lot of it that I found with the first is found in agriculture. So this all ties in because I did do research of that area of Bothell. And I found, as far as the Indians go, because when you had your house exorcised, Father Roy was talking about that it was possible Indian burial grounds.
Yeah, Indian burial grounds in Pacific Northwest, particularly Bothell. There was none discovered underneath the Bothell home.
Okay.
What Father Roy was implying was, in this region of the United States, and probably even where you're located, people stumble by accident or when they do a new excavation. Native American burial ground, fossilized remains. The tribes of that day in the mid 1800s, we often make the mistake of that everybody buries their people 6 feet under like we do. No, they don't. The Native Americans of back then buried their people in trees. They did.
Oh, wow.
They buried their people above ground. And therefore those areas are sacred. Now, over time, you're talking years and years over time, bodies decay, but they remain primarily topsoil, okay? Mm-hmm. And then fast forward to 2012 or whatever, or 2005, or maybe before then, 1990s, when the land was excavated, it's going to stir up something. You probably saw it in your research. In Bothell as well as Pacific Northwest, there were Native American skirmishes with the settlers. There were documents of that. Thousands on both sides lost lives. Murders did take place. Scores were settled. And then there was an outbreak of smallpox. The Pacific Northwest had its fair share of major smallpox outbreaks, extending down from southern Vancouver all the way to northern California. I believe at the time 1.5 to 3 million Native Americans lost their lives, maybe 500,000 in the state of Washington, about 800 in Bothell. And that sort of we think is why you see the upside down man symbol in the walls, because upon research, the upside down symbol you saw on the wall, that was written several times, mind you, means that a man has died. And it's specific to a man has either has been murdered, or a Native American or Native has died due to smallpox or disease. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean old age. It doesn't mean, we died from a bear hunt or something, mountain lion got him. No, it means he died either he was murdered or smallpox. And both were unjustly to the Native Americans, because the vaccine in the Pacific Northwest was purposely withheld for a time from the Native Americans. It was used as a means back then as to killing off many Native Americans through smallpox versus through skirmishes. So it was purposely withheld from them. They were purposely not given the vaccine. And so maybe that's some relationship to why the upside down symbol And more importantly, why the bone black? Why bone black versus other black material? Well, you have to
Right.
look at bone black and understand bone black in its form that you see on the wall is from remains of buffalo or bison bone. And we all know through the North American, both buffalo and bison were almost extinct or eliminated to government intervention. Um, and I use the analogy or metaphor in my second book where I do the comparison because in the 1800s, there was a similar event where all the trees were nearly extinct.
Mhm.
And some of the wars that broke out between settler and Native American was the preservation of the forest, the North American forest, because it was detrimental to the salmon population, or it would impact the salmon population with the trees. And so you will see for miles and miles and miles, like you saw the buffalo carcass on the Midwestern countryside, millions of buffalo dead for miles and miles and miles, talking about state after state after state. You saw that Pacific Northwest of trees chopped down. So I think there's some sort of paranormal metaphor there, or analogy, if you will, or comparison of whatever entity is reminding me or us, whoever looks at that symbol, of the cost. You know, for me, it's a beautiful home. For me and Tina, it's a beautiful home, but
Right.
not for people who used to live there years ago. Their spirits were never put to rest nicely, peacefully.
Right.
They're going to raise hell.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's that's what I was thinking when I was looking at it. It was I'm going to try and say it correctly. The Sammamish tribe.
Correct. Yes.
Yes. And it was they were also called the Willow people, and they
Yep.
belonged to a group called the Lake people,
Yep.
and they were known to be aggressive. So when I looked at all the activity that you and Tina were experiencing, and then you by yourself, I was like, I mean, this, you have so much negativity there. And I know, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to piggyback on what you said of the Sammamish people and the manner in which they would surprise attack settlers
Mhm.
and assault them. Man, woman, and child of the native tribes to the settlers. And one of the things that we experienced in the Bothell house, and people who understand poltergeist phenomena, is the phenomena is an ambush phenomenon. It ambushes you because it catches you off guard.
Right.
Things go flying in the night. Things go flying in the day. Things go flying while you're taking a shower. Lights go off. Objects get thrown. Sheets get pulled and whatnot. Nothing is predicted. And
Right.
we've been attacked in the dead of night while sleeping. We've been attacked while watching television, with company over, having supper, taking a shower. And sometimes you're in your most vulnerable moment. I mean, one of the most vulnerable moments a human can be in is when you're taking a shower. Okay.
Right. Exactly.
Taking a bath, asleep. Okay. And hell breaks loose. And upon looking at the style of terror that the Sammamish people took to enrich fear and death on the settlers, sort of made me, when I was reading in the county records office, take a back, like, whoa, okay. Because the violence behind each attack in our home, you're talking about emits a level of violence, but it's very abrupt, it's unpredicted. It comes from out of nowhere. Okay, I could be typing on my computer in my office, and I did, and a knife would just shoot by me, a chef knife, just zoom, almost dislodging, almost lodging the wall, and over and over and over. Just clear out, mind my own business. I'm not being nefarious to the ground. Me and Tina were nowhere disrespectful to the land. We don't know anything, but we're just peaceful people trying to live a life and enjoy a home. But there's some unfinished business, obviously, with this land that we're sleeping above. And once I made it personal out of ignorance, trying to get rid of smudging, crosses, imagine throwing a cross or bringing in Bibles And the Native Americans were one of the things they were trying to do back then was to convert. You convert to Christianity or die. that was the, convert to Christianity now or, burn you at the stake. So here I come 2 years removed, 200 years removed. Bible, leave this house so you can kind of understand. I'm not trying to make excuses for the entities or whatever, but you can see how me and Tina were way over our heads.
Well, and it's, when you get to that, because you had a collection of 4 Bibles, right?
Yeah, 3 caught fire, 2 went missing. 2 are still missing to this day.
See, I say it all the time, but it is crazy. And when I was looking into this and I was watching the videos and I was just like, this is just wild because, I mean, I could see where you would be absolutely over your head. And so you called in the paranormal investigators and what is it? Noble Paranormal came in first.
Yeah.
And they had experiences as well, right?
Yeah, Noble Paranormal came in the spring of 2014. This is when the activity had returned with a vengeance.
Mm-hmm.
And we had tremendous hell that day. By hell, I mean, I woke up, and I remember telling Tina, hey, something's not right. You should be ready. Keep your car keys near you because something's about to go down. And something did. A few hours later, that's when you saw the double doors being snatched off the bedroom. Light fixtures exploded. Objects being thrown and loud bangs. And so No Bull was not the first team we called. They probably were the 20th of going to websites and going to phone numbers and emails that some were dead ends, no longer existed. They answered, and lucky for us, they were about an hour away. I mean, that's where they were located. And they needed a few hours to gather their gear and get over to us. But when they did come over, you're right, they did do an investigation. I think they were there for 6-7 hours. And they did witness phenomena. They did witness phenomena themselves. They witnessed the house humming upon entry. We did not know that. We had not left the house that day, so we had got acclimated to the noise. And it took Jennifer, the leader, to have us step out of the house and step back in to realize there's a humming coming from your home, slightly detected, but it's there. And then they witnessed through their cameras, CCTV cameras, the white mist coming from the floor. The same area that you saw in the video where I saw the shadowy figures, there was a white mist reported coming through the foundation of the floor. That was captured on infrared, but invisible to the naked eye. And then the infamous sage stick that Jennifer lit, not lit, it lit itself. So once again, you're coming to remove something, and one of your things in your toolbox is a smudge stick, but the spirit lights it for you. It's like, hey, I got that. Let me light that for you.
It's very mocking. Yeah, it's like it's mocking you. Like with the fires on the Bibles, and then it lighting the sage. It's almost like it's
a psychological. There's the physical component of the objects and the destruction, but like all war, the psychological is worse because imagine what can burn a Bible, let alone 3. Whoa!
Right.
What can light a smudge stick while I'm holding it? Whoa! I use the comparison. It's like, you shoot a silver bullet at the werewolf and he catches it with his mouth and spits it out. Right? He's like, no. You've been watching too much TV, guy. That's television. This is real life. And that's what you're left with when 3 Bibles catch fire. And it did, because psychologically, I'm taken aback. Tina's like, whoa. I'm calling the priest like, hey, you know that plan you said about Bibles and laying them out and they'll run at the face of that? No, it caught fire, dude. And then everybody's like, well, that's never happened before. I can't tell you how many times we heard that. That's never happened before. From paranormal researchers, from priests, no, not to fault them, but they're just as dumb with it as we are. And some, like, this is where we bow out. Jennifer, to her credit, no bull, said, hey, we've run out of, our expertise ran out the minute that Bible caught fire. We know,
Yeah. This is no traverse. Yeah. Get the F out. No.
Yeah. Oh, that's the advice given by many, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And there was just a plethora of things that happened in the house. You have the gray lady, solid, full on, like you could touch her, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So the gray lady, you're right. Not only she was full body, and I did not know that term, but I totally get it now when I hear it. Because once again, going back to Hollywood and TV and what the brain remembers growing up, when you think of a ghost, you think of translucent, see-through, supposed to float around. No, there was none of that. There was a woman standing at my door. Okay? I can't account or attest to why she's 100% gray, except that she was. Okay?
Right.
But the thing that I remember most, or one of the things I remember most when she darted off, was the pitter-patter behind her. She made noise. Okay? She made noise or caused noise when she hit the light switch to turn it off. That's what made me turn toward the door. Click. Okay? So she was solid. Okay? Her finger touched the light switch to make it turn off. Right. And then she turned her back to me after she could not demanifest into the washroom. She turned her back to me and darted. And I heard that. Like it would have been like you or me.
Yeah.
And we always heard that. We always heard being downstairs watching TV, me and Tina, or having dinner. It's a 2-story home. And we don't have kids. So if those who are listening who have kids and have a 2-story home, you always know when somebody's upstairs, right? You hear the footstep movement. You know who's in the room. Johnny, get out the room, or Johnny, leave your sister alone. You can follow the movement, right? Imagine you're downstairs, it's you and your girlfriend, or vice versa, and you're hearing all this commotion upstairs. Doors closing, open. Like somebody is going from one room to the other. You hear doors open, the door over there shuts. Open, shut. You go up and investigate naturally, and there's nothing. Like, I could have sworn, no, I'm tripping. You go back downstairs, resume eating your soup, watching your TV. And that happened a lot. Or coming home from work, when I arrive to work, I go to the front door. Tina goes to the garage and through the kitchen. I make a point, always park my car on the curb and walk to the front door. And I open the door, open it, go in, and you hear scurrying up the stairs. Scurrying. Nobody's home. It's like,
right.
Did I interrupt something? And you hear it all the way in, and whoever's scurrying, they're going down the hallway. Sometimes you hear the noise in our bedroom, or one of the guest rooms, or my office. And you're like, okay. And that happened so many of the investigators, the Steve and the Dons you saw, witnessed that. My friends, they witnessed that. They saw that. Father Roy, who did the exorcism, they witnessed that. They heard that. And people were like, what's that noise? I'm like, that's why you're here. That's what we're dealing with.
Right, every day. And just to let you know, my screen is frozen, but I can still physically hear you and you can still physically hear me. But I knew this would happen just because it's ghost talk. So I should be okay. Just as long as you can still hear me, we're good.
Oh yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, certain subject matter, you're gonna have electronic difficulty because we're
100%. So if I happen to disappear, I will come right back. Okay. But I wanted to touch on your injury when you fell down the stairs. Was that like a normal fall? Because when you're dealing with this kind of activity, it does make you wonder if that was a true accident, or were you pushed, or with your knee?
Yeah, so the interesting thing about this fall, and we can go back to, I think that was January 2nd, 2014. The activity subsided, lucky us, the entire year 2013. We had no activity 2013. So it did taper off the end of 2012. And we thought we had dodged no pun intended, a bullet, meaning no activity for the whole year of 2013. And then, bam, January 2nd comes. I'm in my office, go downstairs, or try to go downstairs to get a refill of something. And I get to the midway landing, and I just bite to death. I just fall. It was over before it began. I'm on my back, laying on the floor. Tina was in the kitchen cooking. And I knew it was a bad fall. And Tina helped me up, helped me back upstairs. And long story short, yeah, I got a torn patella, which is my kneecap is detached in my thigh. And then a few weeks after surgery, and then I'm laid up. Now I'm homebound, can't go anywhere. I'm confined to upstairs while Tina goes to work every day. And one of the things that's always bothered me until the Steve and Dawn, the guys from the UK, came was, and I get asked this a lot, but it was in the back of my mind. Was I pushed? Now, I can't definitively say I was pushed because I don't remember it. The brain would have erased that as soon as it happened. That's just what the brain does when trauma sets in. So I wouldn't remember if I was pushed anyway. But it was a weird fall. There was never any before that fall happened. We're not 2 years in the home. I've been up and down the stairs 1,000 times. There's never been a potential slip fall, oh, almost got me,
Yeah.
Nothing like that. Nothing hinted like that. But fast forward to when the investigators came to the home in 2016, and one of the EVP sessions, Dawn asked, because they want to get to the root cause of, are these spirits friend or foe? And they asked the question, did you guys push Keith Linder down the stairs? And they got an answer. And then the voices that they got on the EVP on their recorder was, yes, we pushed him down the stairs. And they used the word we. And so there you have it. Okay.
Right.
Two years later. And it's not hard to believe when you think the activity after being gone for almost a year or over a year came back soon after.
Now, what do you think happened in that 2013 to where it made everything cease?
You know what? I don't know. I know it started tapering off as it was theorized by some researchers that as poltergeist activities go, some have a short shelf life, a lifespan, and that's good. You want that. But they generally go on, they generally taper off, and nobody knows why. But you don't look a gift horse in the mouth. You just go on by your life and hope it never happens again. However, if it does come back, and there was always an asterisk everywhere I read on a website or a book, if it does come back, it's always worth it.
Right. It's almost like.
So yeah, and then, but in 2013, it was quiet, and we then thought, okay, maybe we're good now. It's fine. We can live our lives and enjoy the home the way we want to enjoy it. But there were hints. I can't totally let everybody listening today go off believing that it was just total silent. But there were subtle hints that something was still there. And me and Tina, or I more than Tina, were trying to talk about it, but Tina didn't want to dive deep into it. But there have been little subtleties. Number one, none of the items that went missing ever came back. I was always told that you get your items back. They might not be where you left them, but they eventually come back. No, nothing ever came back. And still to this day, nothing ever came back. There was an episode in the middle of the night, one night, where the fire alarms came on. This is not the Bible fire. This is 2013, where the fire alarms came on by themselves. And we rushed downstairs to the one that was doing the main siren. No fire, no harm, no foul. We turned it off, went back to bed, nothing heard of again. And then there was the time Microsoft, I was a beta tester for the Xbox 360.
Yes.
In the Kinect system. And they occasionally, while me testing their gaming console before it went public, would come to the house to monitor me. They would monitor my gameplay. And they would also monitor from their headquarters. Well, there was an episode one night where the Kinect was picking up shadows around me in the house, behind me in the kitchen, that they could not ascertain for. So they had to do a complete stop. And then when they put the what was behind me, the kitchen on screen on my beloved 67-inch TV back then, which I mentioned earlier today, we saw these floating black orbs. And there's a reenactment of that on my YouTube channel, the floating black orbs, that even Microsoft could not ascertain what was that. Now, we didn't think, even then when I was sitting on the couch watching it before then, I didn't put two and two together like that's the ghost from last year, because I didn't know much about ghosts and spirits. But I did come back to it, like I came back to the kid call a few years later, and like, aha, I wonder is that what they were like in their dormant state?
Right, because, and I'm so glad you said that, because I totally wrote all of this down. Actions of poltergeist activity. Okay.
Yeah.
Stage 1, dormant or passive stage. I feel like this is where you guys were at when you first moved in. You're on that house high. This is what we're going to do. And then you have stage 2, obvious detectable activity. And then you have stage 3 is increased objects moving. And then stage 4, what it usually goes through the individual where you're targeted. And you were absolutely targeted. And in my opinion, and this is solely my opinion, they specifically wanted you for whatever reason. And this is exactly why they had to get Tina out of the picture. So I feel that they used these things as a way to get her to leave. And then stage 5 is dangerous activity for individuals. And goodness knows you were there every day.
Yeah, I mean, fall down the stairs, right? The fires, the poster fire, the Bible fires, the clothing catch fire.
Mm-hmm.
Tina was scratched several times. She had scratches, 3 lines on the leg and back and thigh, front and back, several times. One time Tina was in the house by herself. She was attacked. One time I was in the house by myself. I was attacked. But if you look at it from an animal kingdom, like from a predator point of view, predators in the wild, how they catch their prey is they divide and conquer, right?
Yes.
They know we're not going to get the whole herd. Okay, guys, we're not going to get all the zebras. We would like to, but we're not. We need to focus on one and corner it off from the others.
Yeah.
If we do that, we go home with a full stomach. And it became a point during our attacks and phenomena where you're right. They started bombarding me and Tina. Bam, 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 bam. You guys are a collective. Bam, 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 bam. Remember, we saw the plant fly, the same thing. Get caught, same thing. Door slam, lights, all the same thing. What? Only Keith saw the gray lady. What's that about? Only Keith saw the white lady. What's that about? Why they all paraded around Keith's door? Why is Keith only seeing shadowy figures? Because they're pivoting. They're homing in. And I'm sort of making it easier because I am the leader of the home. It is my home more than it was Tina's. I'm the one doing the investigations. I'm the one doing the cameras, setting up the security system, monitoring, and all that stuff. So I am making myself noticeable. And then they're going to pick up me more. And that's fine. I mean, they pushed me downstairs, so okay. But you're right. And then they're going to put the female jury that doesn't belong to Tina. And not only they're going to put it out in the open, well, they didn't put it out in the open, they put it in areas to where it's going to get a negative response. Right. Naturally so, right? Any woman coming home from a day's worth of work when her husband has the ability to work from home, but finds female jury in their bed, is going to be upset. Ghost or no ghost, right?
Right.
But Tina, look what house we live in. Look where we live. We live in Amityville times 20. The woman's okay. I don't care. Screw the ghost. Screw that. But objects appear all the time. Screw that. Well, no. This is the bridge too far. So that ratchets it up. You're right. And then you start thinking the paranormal investigators who, in my opinion, by default, like to pick on women anyway and just go to them and think all activity is women related. So that creates a wedge, What's up with your girl? They're like, we got a team full of investigators in the home, and they're like, can we talk to you over here? And like, that's what we want to talk about. What's up with your girl? They're like, what do you mean? You came here to investigate the house, and you only been here 4 minutes, you're already asking about the girl. So, so there's that, and then I ask her, and she gets upset, and then the upper trail on Ghost Adventure. So you're right. Then all that, she's out. Okay, she's out. Finally, she's out.
Yeah.
Now Keith here. Now we can play. You know? Now we can do our little do, and So there you have it. Yeah.
Now, with the all of the paranormal investigator, and this is actually a question that was asked that I highlighted, but I had actually wanted to ask you too. What is going on in the neighborhood? Are your neighbors experiencing anything adverse like you and Tina did, or anything weird happening outside? Because neighbors talk in little suburbia,
No, so let's step outside the Bothell house a little bit. Let's talk about the Bothell neighborhood, or the neighborhood this house is located in. And I want let's go back to day one when we first moved in, because there's some important things I want to mention that's important to your question.
Absolutely.
When we first moved into the house, like anybody, and it was Tina's job to do this, you got to get the power and the lights and all that stuff on, right? Switched over, and you got to call that. Mm-hmm. And she got some interesting responses that we thought were weird or interesting, but once again, we're house high. I remember Tina told me that night over dinner or something, hey, I called a power company today and to get our power changed over to my name. And the lady, I give her the address, and she's like, oh, again? She's like, oh, and she's like, what do you mean again? Oh, we just, nobody stays in this house long. We're always changing accounts on this house. It was like day 2 or day 3 of living in the house. And we thought that was like, oh, really? Oh, okay. And then one day I was outside being my best friend. We were moving my stuff in. We had just moved the bed upstairs, and we're outside having a beer on the driveway. And a neighbor, just like on the movies, comes over with his dog, little old guy, and comes over, He says, dee-dee-dee. He said, hey, welcome to the neighborhood. And we're like, hey, thank you. So you moving in? Like, yeah, just moving in. He said, nobody stays in this house long. This is like week 1 of moving in. And I'm like, really? He's like, oh no, this like nobody stays in this house long. But gotta go. Welcome to the neighborhood. And so those little things, keep in mind the kid talk had already happened. And I look at my friend like, okay, that's weird. That's kind of all right. But those are precursors, right? Those are little hints.
Right.
And then so you fast forward, and now we know the house is on because it's now 2014. And then the paranormal investigators show up, and boy, when they show up, to the credit, they show up in their fatigue and their gear, and the van has got, Ghostbuster this and that on it.
Right.
Like this, and like, you gotta say, can you get small letters small? Not this.
A little bit more incognito.
Incognito, So they pull up, and then the neighbors see, and then they go knocking on doors. Like, whoa. But I know they got an investigation to conduct, and it's a fair question. So they talk to the houses close to ours. Mm-hmm. And to their credit, the houses volunteer information. And they said to the house to the right of us, the husband said, oh, our pets act weird every time they go by that house. Mm-hmm. Our dogs go crazy. Matter of fact, our dogs inside our house, not ours, but my neighbor's house, they won't go in any of the rooms on that side of the house. Never.
Isn't that wild? Animals know.
That's wild, but we live in there 2 years. Like, nobody's going to volunteer that information, because nobody knows, right? They don't know what me and Tina are dealing with. So they're going to like, hey, by the way, our pets don't go anywhere near your house. Like, who does that? But once they saw the ghost fans,
Yeah.
Then they start volunteering information, you know. And then Rhonda, the previous tenant who in 2008, 2009, who you saw in the video, they had activity, you know, and then they didn't tell nobody. They didn't tell nobody.
Right.
So there were subtle hints over there. We later learned, and this is after I moved, I later learned through a friend who lives in that neighborhood who told me, because he talked to a sheriff deputy one day, and he said that neighborhood in Bothell, out of all the other neighborhoods in Bothell, they have the most false, they get 911 calls, the police station does, and they have to respond to them, where they get the false burglary alarms, meaning people's home security systems go off without being burglarized.
Yeah.
In this immediate area. And only a sheriff department would know that. Only a 911. Right. You can do a FEMA and get that data and to find out, and that'll be probably good. If I should probably do that to where I can, it'll show on a graph in this specific neighborhood the amount of 911 calls and the type of 911 calls that are false positives.
Yeah.
Because that would support the land theory. Like Steve Merritt, they already determined it's not the house that's haunted.
It's the land. Okay. Well, and that's what I was going to ask too. If you thought maybe you were just on this ley line of just crap, essentially.
Well, I mean, there's so many bad vibes. This house is the epicenter in that area. Number one. Talking about the Native American component, the death, smallpox, and all that. And then you have a rape. Rhonda, the previous tenant, was raped in the home. That's in one of the reports that you saw. She admitted to that one. She told me that, and I found that in the police report.
And that is a tremendous trauma that is going to absolutely feed all that negativity anyway.
Oh yes. So you definitely, so that's there. That's stuck in the walls and the ceiling and the floor. Okay. Can't be, it needs to be properly excavated. But you can't excavate if you don't know it. Right. You just bury it. But it's there, with stone tape theory. It's there. And it's going to rear its ugly head eventually. With the right couple, with the right or wrong synergy, depending on how you look at it. They're going to wake up like that. When me and Tina walked in, they woke up just like that. We're awake.
Yeah.
You ever see those movies that are like this, and then you go in, we've been resting for centuries. Now we're back to work. It's like we never slept.
Yeah, because there was that, not to step on you, I'm sorry. There was that, they moved out, they were there from 2008 to 2009 for 8 months, right?
Yeah.
So that left the house empty, correct? Was it empty?
Well, it was lived in. It was lived in. People lived in it after them. They just had activity that we know of. I never talked to them.
Right. So they could have and just kind of swept it under the rug and was like,
they could have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I was just trying to. Okay. There's one thing that you had mentioned you wanted to talk about, and it's 9:18. I'm not worried about the time if you're not worried about the time. But the Katy Perry weekend.
Yeah. Yeah, the Katy Perry weekend.
Talk to me about the Katy Perry weekend.
Oh, okay. So like the video suggested, I mean, it's properly named the Katy Perry weekend because what a weekend it was. But it started, I believe it was on Thursday or Friday when that song played. And it was just a normal night. This is shortly after the activity. This is a few days, maybe a week or so after the first Bible caught fire.
Mm-hmm.
So we're still trying to get teams in to help us. And right now we're just dealing with a series of loud bangs and door slams in the one Bible that caught fire. Well, that weekend, I was in my office, or that week I was in my office, and just typing, and then all of a sudden the TV or music comes blasting from the TV in the bedroom, our master bedroom. Tina's downstairs watching TV, and I get up because it's very loud and go to the bedroom, not so much to respond to a ghost event. I just like responding to the noise. But I get to the television and the screen is, off. It's showing black. Okay, but it's got a little logo at the bottom. It's on a music channel, one of the Comcast music channels, but it's not showing a picture.
Uh-huh.
But that's a Katy Perry. So Tina comes out and said, Tina, come here. And Tina comes up the stairs and we look at the TV together. And I said, oh, that's weird. Tina said, that's weird. I said, I didn't turn it on. I know Tina didn't turn it on. So you just do what anybody do. You get the remote and you turn it off, right? No harm, no foul.
Right.
Solve that problem. And you walk away. I go back to my office, sit down. And this is Katy Perry song that was playing, but I don't know that yet. I'm just happy to turn the TV off. 5 minutes later, back on again. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. I go, this time I walk a little bit faster. Tina comes back up a little bit faster. And it's playing the Katy Perry song again. And I'm like, oh, okay, all right. Yeah, I need to cut it out, Ghost. So I'm going to help you cut it out. I turned the TV off, boop, and I unplugged it. Click. Yeah, I think I even said something funny like, yeah, gotcha. Now I'll try something totally stupid.
Yeah. Don't antagonize these.
Totally stupid. I felt proud of myself because I unplugged it from the wall. I know they're not going to plug it back to the wall. I mean, no, they're not going to do that. Ghosts can't do that, right? They can't do that. And go back to my office, and 5 minutes later, bam, 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 music's playing again. So I get up, and I go to the bedroom, and it's playing that Katy Perry song again. And then I'm like, wait a minute. Tina comes behind me. I'm like, wait a minute. This has gone on for the last 15 minutes. I know enough about that song that no, it's not 15 minutes long.
Right.
Technically, we shouldn't have heard it the second time the TV came on, technically. But I'm hearing it's playing the same verse over and over. And it's not being repetitive. It's just coming. It only comes on that part. And that part is, are you ready for the perfect storm? There's a verse in the song. Are you ready for the perfect storm? Perfect storm. Because once you're mine, or you want to play with fire. Yeah, so something to the effect, do you want to play with fire? You should know what you're playing with or playing for. And, all this stuff. And I'm hearing it for the third time. I'm like, and then I look over to the wall, and it's still unplugged. So they didn't plug it back in. So I'm like, and I tell you, that's the song we heard the second time. And then I said, but then we're like, okay, all right. I don't know what we did to get the music to stop, but it finally stopped on its own. And then the next day was when Tina was attacked, what I talked about earlier. I had left the house to be some friends for happy hour. And I must have been gone 2 or 3 hours. But when I came back to an empty house. Tina's car was gone, but the house was a mess. It looked like a bomb went off.
Yeah.
And I was scared because and the water was running in the kitchen, and the dishwasher door was open. I was like, whoa, what happened here? World War III happened. So I'm calling Tina. She's not answering. And I have no missed calls from her. I had none from her.
Right.
But the house looked like a bomb set off, especially upstairs. I go upstairs, the glass porcelain that covers the light bulb, they're obliterated, 2 of them. There's broken glass confetti size all over the floor. And the walls are out of the ceiling, and it looked like hell. And I'm getting scared, like, where's Tina? And so finally Tina pulls up in the driveway, and she's come back in the house, and I'm in hysterics because she's back, and now I don't know what happened. And I'm trying to see if she's okay. And she's mad because she's like, I've been trying to get a hold of you. I've been trying to call you. You've been answering your phone. We said we would always have our phones on ready in case something. I'm like, Tina, what are you talking about? I had no missed calls from you. And I was sure Tina wasn't having it. I called you 3 times, and all I got was voicemail. I'm like, Tina. And I tried to show her my phone, but she was too mad to look at it. But I had no incoming calls from her. And so I know what they did was they cut that connection.
Right. Exactly.
Like their computer froze. They cut it. And that was probably before they attacked or after they attacked. They cut that line.
Yeah.
and Tina, and what Tina told me what happened. So you listen, this is what happened, and why she took off from the house. Tina was in the kitchen washing dishes and loading them in the dishwasher, and the lights in the entire house start going off and on. Okay.
Right.
And she started hearing noises upstairs. I forgot what noise specifically she heard upstairs. So she went to investigate. And she goes upstairs and she gets to one of these lights in the middle of the hallway, and it starts flickering real fast, like real fast. The bulb is going off and off and on. And as she looked at it, lucky she had her glasses on, like I got my glasses on. She looked at it, and the dome blew up in her face. Boom, just exploded. And she darted. Okay, she just darted. She grabbed keys and took off. Left everything, washer, water running. She was gone. And I saw that, and that was Friday. No, that was Saturday. That was Saturday. So then, after we calmed down and tried to clean up what we could clean up, this is going back to when I told you Sunday when we woke up. The house felt uneasy. It felt heavy. And I told Tina, as much as it happened last night that I wasn't here, I don't think they're done.
Right.
I don't know how we got through that night anyways, but I don't think they're done. And Tina was trying to put it behind her, like, And I said, we need to keep our wits about ourselves because something's about to jump off. And it did. About 1:12 noon, boom, 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 boom. Doors start being yanked off the front bedroom, the master bedroom. More light fixtures exploded, things are thrown, and that's when we called the no bull. So now in chronological order, that's when we got no bull on the horn. That's when they came over and investigated. And then the next morning, Sunday, or you can say Monday morning, depending on how you look at it, 1:34 a.m. is when the first Bible came back on fire.
Right.
So all these things, pick one which was worse, came after the Katy Perry Friday. And that's why I call it the Katy Perry weekend.
Right.
Because
I want to
touch. Are you ready for the perfect storm? It always reminds me of that movie with George Clooney, The Perfect Storm. Are you ready? Because there's no turning back. You want to play with magic, and the magic they were implying was me and Tina and trying to get all this stuff to get rid of them. And like, oh, you want to play with magic? Okay. You don't even know what you're fighting, and you're playing with that stuff. You don't even know what you're doing to try to get rid of us. You don't know who we are yet.
Right.
But we're going to get going. We got you. Because it said, I'm coming at you like a dark horse. That's what I remember. I think the name of the song is called Dark Horse. And when I read those lyrics, because it dawned on me, I wanted to look up those lyrics on Google to read them. And I was like, yeah, the Katy Perry weekend. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it's a good description. It's a good description for it because they surely gave you a party. I want to touch.
That was the introduction of hell. That was because after that came the poster fire.
Yes.
That's why I might come up as for being home alone. Tina was gone. They waited for her to purposely leave and attack me. That's when Bible 2 and Bible 3 caught fire. More explosions, more loud bangs. Yeah. It was crescendo, domino effect, you name it. All that started. So.
Well, I want to touch on this briefly, and I want to get some of these questions answered. I really want to be respectful of your time. I could just sit here and talk to you about this forever. I do want to touch because it really, really ticks me off. And it really ticked me off when I was listening to everything that you went through when you were contacted by the Discovery Channel. And if you don't want to talk about this, just say, Tiffany, shut up. I don't want to talk about it. But ZB came over to your house and they spent the minuscule amount of 5 hours. Now, people who are in this field who do this have come on our show and have said, if you're new to this and you want to go out and be a paranormal investigator, You have to be ready to be bored because it's not going to just pop off. And so the fact that they were there, the little amount of time that they were, and you got to factor in the time it's going to take these people to set their camera equipment up. So let's hypothetically speak and say it takes 2 hours. That means that they were only there investigating 3 hours. And if you have an intellectual poltergeist, demonic, experience going on in your house, they're not going to show themselves to these people in 3 hours.
Yeah, it's not in the ghost, or we can say it's not in the poltergeist's best interest to make outsiders believe they exist. Poltergeists are there to haunt the occupants. They're not there to prove that they exist to the world or to some TV show or to some investigator. They could care less. Like you and I can care less about. We're not trying to prove to anybody that we exist. You exist because you exist.
Right.
Okay. And what they're doing is trying to isolate me and Tina. And when there were several things, and I wrote about this in my book, that doomed the Ghost Adventures investigation. One being, and this one they can't control, but they should have been knowledgeable of. If you're a researcher, you have to know this going in.
Right.
Most poltergeist activity, by the time it reaches the investigator or researcher's ears and eyes, meaning by the time they come wind of it, they are coming in on the lower end of the bell curve of the activity.
Right.
Very few come in at the beginning because that's hard to do. We had been going through this for 2.5 years before it went public.
Yeah.
Okay. So the activity was already showing signs of tapering off by the time they arrived. And I told them that. I said, I know you coming and you heard about the Bible's fire and all that stuff, but keep in mind, because Ghost Adventures reached out to me in October, late October, or early November. And that stuff that we just talked about, all that stuff happened in the summer and spring of that year. Now, there's still stuff going on, okay? But don't come in here thinking you're going to get the Holy Grail. And most bona fide researchers know that, okay?
Exactly.
So there's that component of it. Then there's the component of it where they said that we're only going to be there 5 hours. Now, the 5 hours is stacked on top of what I just told you of lessening activity.
Right.
Now, I've had kids come in my house and spend all day and get nothing.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's to be expected. It's not the house. It's not me and Tina's fault.
Yeah.
Nothing. And you come in 5 hours, and I can understand that you're traveling, whatever, production company, and I get that 5 hours, whatever. But I doubt you get anything.
Right.
In that short amount of time. So, okay, all right. But the third part of it that they could control was ego and arrogance.
Yes.
And if you walk in through the door, like me and Tina walking through the door with ego and arrogance, like Zach did, of I come in and the ghosts respond to me only because I'm Zach Baggins. And that's the only reason I make all ghosts respond to me. They're going to do the opposite thing, especially if they know they can get negative energy out of me and Tina as a result. See, when the episode aired in February, 2 months after they came, me and Tina caught a lot of hell from the fan base of Ghost Adventures.
Right.
A lot of hate was sent our way. We were the bad guys in Gal. We were viewed as wasting their time, as hoaxing, even though hoaxing was never uncovered.
Right.
Not in the slightest. And that people looked at us like, okay, you over-exaggerate. No, we did not. But the episode, if you watch the 45-minute episode, they don't say they're there 5 hours. They'll never say that.
Nah.
They don't want their fan base to know that.
Right.
Okay? But paranormal teams know that. Paranormal teams know 5 hours is nothing.
Nothing. I mean, you have paranormal investigators who go to a place and they spend the night. And usually more than one night. And that's just, and that's what I was telling you before the show when you and I were talking, is the power of suggestion is so strong. And you get somebody who is in the world of TV, who has the clout at that time that Zach Bagans did, and it's just going to shed this, air of just negativity on you and Tina, and make people disbelieve what you're saying. And people are not going to dig the way I chose to dig. And they're not going to take the time to pay attention and to listen and ask questions. They're just going to assume.
They're going to assume that, and I laughed out loud when I read or saw on the episode where they said we researched and we could not find any Native American evidence ever being in the Bothell area. Well, you found out on your digging.
I found that, when I was.
You go to Bothell Wikipedia or Bothell Chamber of Commerce or Snohomish County Record, and that information is readily available. Number one, Snohomish is a Native American name.
Okay. Yeah.
Snohomish. So,
right.
They can get away with that because nobody's on the other side. Now, the flip side of the Ghost Adventures is the teams who came in a year and a half later who did live in the house. Okay. Mm-hmm. The team in the United States, Nikki Novelli and her team, lived in the home for a total of 3.5 weeks. Steve Murrah made 2 trips. Him and Don, first trip, him, Don, and Nick Kyle. You're talking about 60 years of Portuguese experience between the 3. Mm-hmm. Came a second time in a total of 2.5 weeks. And living is better than visiting. Okay. And 5 hours is nothing on top of an activity that's already showing signs of tapering off. And if you're a researcher and if your heart is in the right place to the house occupants, that's a good thing. You know, if I go to my doctor and say I'm sick on Monday, but I don't have an appointment till Wednesday, and I come in Wednesday, is that he's already going basing the appointment off old news. But hey, I'm feeling better, doctor. He's like, oh, that's a good thing. But let me check you out while you're here, and let's see if we can still find out what was ailing you. But pat on the back, you're getting better. That was the opposite with Ghost Adventures. It's like they get mad, like we ain't been no activity. It's your fault. The activity is dying down. That's good, right? That's what you want to hear, right? That's what the research says. It dies down. But they didn't say that. We didn't find any evidence, so we cannot be able to substantiate. We think it's so, all the negativity that they didn't help eliminate, but fueled, as you saw in the second episode that they doubled down on. So yeah.
Well, and I just want to put this out here, because if you take, and I'm going to post all of these links that you sent to me and everything that I found and everything, it'll all be attached to the show in this episode. And when Wayne puts this out on podcast, it's all going to be there in the show notes. But I wanted to point out to the people who are listening now and to the people who will listen to this later, there was a team that came from the UK, and it is 10,000 miles from the UK to here, where you were at. And they interviewed you for 4 or 5 months before they came, and then they spent the money. They got on the plane. They flew 10,000 miles. If you were BSing, they wouldn't waste their time, their energy, their money, the effort to come and spend all this time at your house. And I just I just wanted to get that power of suggestion that people have gotten from the TV personas. Somebody's not going to do that if they are detecting that it's hoax. And they found massive amounts of evidence, and in the links that I'm going to share and put out, it's all there. It's all there.
They have their own documentary. They have other analyzing the data, and you're right. But those who study poltergeist activity or any paranormal activity, like I said, TV makes it seem like investigations begin and end inside the home. No, that's maybe one component of it. You're right. They interviewed me for 4 and 5 months, made the evaluation, put me through all type of scenarios to see if I was lying or hoaxing or crazy or Lulu. And then they have to trek 10,000 plus miles. And they got peers just like, I do. And they got to, come back with whatever they find or not find.
Right.
It was never in the stipulation that if we don't find anything, and we
Yeah.
had a good conversation with them and me, that it's going to be labeled hoaxing. They were too smart for that. Now, if they find hoaxing, they will broadcast that up. But you got to find it. Somebody said in the chat where on TV it looked like spray paint. It could look like crayon. Portuguese write with crayon, ladies and gentlemen. Portuguese spray with spray paint. Portuguese use magic marker. Don't let the idea of something man-made being written on the wall means it's not paranormal. It just so happens that this wall writing was bone black, but it was incorrect for Zach to say, well, it looks like spray paint. Looks can be deceiving.
Correct.
Just because something looks like spray paint doesn't make it so. Now, Zach Baggins and Travel Channel have big pockets, deep pockets. Not once did they ask me, because if they did, they could have chiseled a piece of the wall out and say, Mr. Linder, we're going to take a piece of this black stuff and back to our laboratories. And if we find out it was spray paint that was bought at Home Depot, and there is a way you can find that out, okay? It's expensive, but you can narrow it down to when it was bought. FBI does it every day.
Right.
Every day. That's why it's called Quantico. And they can come back to me 2 months later and say, hey, we found this is Home Depot type paint. The game's up. We busted you. But they didn't do that. Had they did, they would have got the same results we would have gotten. Right. And that would have been a conversation worth having, sharing with the paranormal community. But they didn't do that. I did after they left. And the results are for everybody to see. But it always starts back with that, oh, it looks like spray paint. It's not what it looks like that matters. You have to test it. Okay.
Right.
You guys are manipulative. They will do something for you to think it looks like spray paint. So you can disavow it and say, you did it yourself. You did. Crayon, dude. That's magic marker. That's a Sharpie, dude. So what if it's a Sharpie?
Yeah.
Portuguese write with Sharpies. Okay. There's other ways to test it to see if the Sharpie was written by a human or not. Just don't take it on face value.
Right. It is wild. Well, I tell you what, it is it's 9:43 my time. It is 6:43 your time. I could continue. However, I want to respect you and your time and our audience who have hung in there with us. Thank you so much. I am going to put these up here because I do have pictures and I planned on sharing them before whatever ghost decided to freeze me for that amount of time. But this is your first book. And this is on Amazon, correct? This is book one when everything started. Yeah. Yeah. And then we have your book two. And this is the attachments?
The one you're showing now is Poltergeist, The Night Side of Physics. That's that's book number 3.
Oh, that's book number 3. I had them in order. Sorry. This is book 2 with the attachments.
Yeah, yeah.
And then this is 3. I have them all here together.
That's cool.
Yes. So if you guys watching and listening would like to go see any further of Mr. Keith Linder, you can absolutely find him in all of the rest of this story. Again, I will absolutely post all the links. I had planned on showing these pictures previously, but I was frozen. That is one of the Bibles there. Now, there was a question up here. Let me pull it up here. Where are the Bibles at now?
Oh, yeah, I saw that. Oh, yeah, I want to answer that question, and I want to go back to the wall writing because I saw a comment about Poltergeists can write on walls, but demons don't need to write on walls. But yeah, so Bible number one that caught fire spring of 2014 was given to one of the U.S. investigators that lived in the home, and unfortunately, it disappeared a few weeks after that. Once they got back home to Connecticut or Pennsylvania, it was just gone. Poof, it's gone. Bible number two, Nikki Novell has, to my knowledge, still in her possession. I gave it to her. Bible number three, I still own. It's in my safe. For researchers who ever want to examine the material, to look at it closely. I would love to get it in a museum somewhere, not the Zach Baggins Museum, but somewhere.
Oh, come on.
It's not going to Vegas. But I would love to give it to somebody to where probably somewhere it'd be in the UK eventually, but it needs to be at a paranormal museum for research purposes for that.
Right.
But going back to the question of poltergeist versus demon, in my opinion, based on my research, poltergeist and demons are two sides of the same coin. The poltergeist is a term, it's a German term that was derived of meaning noisy ghost. It's a 18th century, 19th century term that's severely outdated because poltergeists, as you saw here, are more than a noisy ghost. Matter of fact, poltergeists are not ghosts at all. Okay?
Yeah.
They're not ghosts. They're not adolescent teenagers or anything of that nature. In my opinion, they're a third-party entity, a sentient being with a level of intelligence, and they're malevolent. They're extremely malevolent, powerful, and they derive their energy and synergy from individuals like you and I. And a demon, like you and I, can choose at will if it wants to write something with crayon, blood, bone black, or spray paint. It has that choice. Now, when these entities wrote on the walls in our home, once again, like I said, they're haunting Keith and Tina. They don't care about the outside onlookers.
Right.
They want to write it in a way to where if we ever go public with this, meaning I go calling Cairo News saying, look at this stuff on my wall. Cairo comes look at my wall and said, dude, that looks like spray paint. Nobody's going to believe me or take me seriously because we're trained to think if it's demon, it should be something outworldly. It should be something so horrific that it would never be any doubt. It's just, no. The power of manipulation to where it wants to make you the observer, not take the house occupants seriously. Okay?
Right, exactly.
You want to question that. Looks like spray paint, next story. No. Yes, they can write with any substance, and they have. There's documented cases where they write with other unknown substances, even after testing. People still don't know what it is. They can write with feces. They can write with blood, plasma. There's the San Pedro haunting out of California, where after it was tested, it was blood plasma. None of the occupants had that same type of blood type. So where did that blood plasma come from? It was dripping from the walls, weeping from the walls, blood plasma. So, but it's blood plasma and it's type O blood, I believe. But nobody in the house, none of it, even the occupants or the investigators, had that type of blood. So there's that. And bone black is the same way. So we should not get too caught up or wrapped around, well, if it looks like it's man-made, then no demon could do that. Yes, a demon could do that. If to manipulate you and I, why wouldn't it? We're talking about manipulation here.
Right, exactly. So the next question was from Super Shania. Do you have a theory what may have reactivated the activity early 2014?
Good question. I believe it's definitely related to my injury. There was a high level of angst, of pain, naturally, to go through an injury like that, to be laid up like that for a considerable time. Like I said, I was restricted to upstairs while Tina was gone. It's a 2-story home, so no roaming around the house with in a cast like that. I had to be mobilized, and that's probably why they pushed me down the stairs as a way to once again get the energy, crank it up a notch. Some spirits, I mean, that's how they get that thrill. That's how they are able to, maybe, for lack of a better word, procreate, is to create injury and whatnot. I do know through Rhonda that after her rape, that's when things started happening. It was things to start cascading after that. It was a violent, traumatic event, probably one of the worst you could ever experience. and that woke something up. She said it was a home invader. There's not an entity that raped her. It was a home intruder, but the entities were there, and they took that. And according to Ron, she never told me direct, but I got the sense she knew her assailant. She knew the person who raped her, and she did press charges. But that's all the spirits needed to do, and the house was never cleansed after that episode. And probably should have. That would be a Tina come 4 or 5 years later, totally oblivious,
right?
Walk right in, totally oblivious to that, ever happening.
It is just wild stuff. It is wild. Were there any? Troy wants to know if there were any odd smells.
Yes, I saw that. I almost forgot. Yes, there was an odd smell a few episodes when the activity was at its apex. Of summer, fall of 2004, of a foul stench coming from the hallway near the master bedroom door. It was one of the weirdest things, and me walking, you stand this way, and this putrid smell would hit you, almost floor you to the floor. But if you turn slightly, it's gone. But you come back to this, like a door was open, a visible door.
It's like I know, and we didn't even get to touch on that, and I can't even bring that up. I can't even.
But you turn, and then it's gone, but it's back. But no, we didn't talk about. I mean, we can talk about the flies that began appearing. We dive into the shadow figures. I know you're gonna have computer problems if we dive into the shadow figures. I mean, the things that go walking on the floor and on the ceiling. I saw all that. I mean, I saw all of that. Naked eye.
Yeah, you guys really need to go to his YouTube page. 100% go to his YouTube page, because I mean, we're 2 hours in and I hadn't even touched on the paranormal portal that's in the hallway upstairs, the minions that are walking around, the attachments, the issues that he's dealing with currently in his current home. It's a bunch. So, and what you could also do, because all of these are written in his books, go to Amazon. Go to Amazon, 1, 2, and 3. They're all on there. And you can read everything. You can read absolutely everything. It is all right there. His YouTube.
Come back for part 2. I'm happy to do that.
You know what? Let's have you back. Yes, 100%. Let's have you back for a part 2, because I really want to dig into the paranormal portal and the minions and everything I had written down here in my book today. The incidences that occurred when you were away from the home and Tina was at home. Y'all both had experiences at the exact same time. Yeah. It's a lot to unpack, and like I said, we're at the 2-hour mark, and again, I've said it before, but I want to be respectful of you. So let's see if we can get you in for a part 2, because I totally want you back for part 2. So I will get with Wayne, and because I really don't want to push that, we're completely full, I know, for February.
Okay, and I'm going for the month of February anyway, so that's perfect timing.
Okay, awesome. I do know we have a couple Thursdays open for March. So I will have him check both of his calendars, not just our show schedule. And he can come back, because he really did want to be a part of this show. So that will give him the option to come, or the opportunity rather, to come and talk to you, and
Okay, that'd be good. Yeah, we could. Yeah, right. We'll really scratch the surface there on part 2, because you're right. From your list, I heard, we need to talk about those things, and that would answer your listeners' questions about the stuff. So I'll be back. March will be good.
All right, I will get with him and we will schedule you back. And Keith, I cannot thank you enough for coming on here and conversating with me for 2 hours about this. Our chat is very receptive to you. They believe what you're saying. I believe what you're saying, and they all want you to come back. So we will get that scheduled. I have your email. You have mine. So we will absolutely talk about coming back.
Okay, we'll stay in touch, and everybody have a safe night, and thank you very much. And give my regards to everybody. So good deal.
All right, awesome. Well, I will be in touch, sir.
All right. Stay safe,
All right.
everybody.
All right, thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Holy cow, you guys, was that not the coolest show ever in the history of everything? So again, we only scratched the top. It's so much, but we will absolutely have him back. I am starting to lag again. So before I freeze and this ghost kicks me out, thank you so much for your patience and for hanging out with me and Keith. And we will get him back on sometime in March. And as Wayne would say, what does he say? I don't remember what he says. It's awful and I'm so unprofessional. Anyways, have a good night. Thank you again, and I will talk with you soon.